What if I told you there's an ancient text so controversial, so explosive in its revelations, that it was deliberately erased from history? A book filled with celestial secrets, fallen angels, and prophecies that challenge everything we thought we knew about the origins of humanity. This isn't some obscure myth or forgotten legend, it's the Book of Enoch, a text so powerful it was banned, suppressed, and nearly lost to time. Yet fragments of its wisdom survived, hidden away in dusty scrolls and whispered among secret societies, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Imagine a world where the boundaries between heaven and earth weren't so clear-cut, where beings descended from the skies to walk among us, sharing forbidden knowledge that would alter the course of human history. The Book of Enoch paints this very picture, a gripping account of watchers, heavenly beings who defied divine law, and the chaotic aftermath of their actions. But here's the real mystery. Why was this text excluded from the Bible? What secrets did it contain that made religious authorities so uneasy? For centuries, scholars and seekers have been obsessed with uncovering the truth behind its pages, convinced that Enoch's visions hold keys to understanding our deepest spiritual questions. This isn't just another ancient manuscript, it's a portal to a forgotten reality, one that connects celestial realms to human destiny. From its cryptic descriptions of angelic rebellion to its startling parallels with modern UFO encounters, the Book of Enoch refuses to fit neatly into any conventional framework. And that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. Whether you're a history buff, a spiritual explorer, or someone who simply loves a good mystery, this journey into Enoch's hidden teachings will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. So buckle up, we're about to dive into one of the most enigmatic texts ever written, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The Book of Enoch is far more than just an excluded scripture. It's a sprawling tapestry of divine visions, cosmic upheavals, and lost histories that predate even the Old Testament. Believed to have been written over 2,000 years ago, its origins trace back to Jewish communities that thrived centuries before the birth of Christ. Enoch himself, the seventh patriarch after Adam, was said to have walked so closely with the divine that he never experienced death. Instead, he was taken up into heaven, where he received revelations too volatile for ordinary eyes. But what makes this book so unique isn't just its content. It's the tangled journey it took through history. Multiple versions of the text survived against all odds, preserved in different languages and cultures. The most complete version we have today is the Ethiopic Enoch, cherished for centuries by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church as sacred scripture. Then there's the Slavonic Enoch, also known as Second Enoch, which includes even more elaborate visions of heavenly realms and divine judgment. And let's not forget the fragments found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, a discovery that sent shockwaves through biblical scholarship. When archaeologists uncovered these ancient Hebrew manuscripts in the caves of Qumran, they confirmed something extraordinary. The Book of Enoch wasn't just some fringe text. It was widely read and respected in certain Jewish circles long before the time of Jesus. Yet despite its influence, it never made it into the official biblical canon. Why? Because its themes were too radical for the religious gatekeepers of the time. It spoke openly of rebellious angels breeding hybrid giants, of celestial secrets too dangerous for mankind, and of a coming judgment so severe it would reshape the world. These weren't just stories, they were direct challenges to the theological order. And so, like many texts that didn't fit the approved narrative, it was sidelined, labeled as apocryphal, and nearly lost to time. But whispers of its teachings never completely disappeared. They lingered in the shadows, passed down through secretive traditions, until scholars and seekers in the modern era pieced together the fragments of this forbidden legacy. Now, with every newly uncovered manuscript, the Book of Enoch forces us to ask, what else might history have tried to erase, and why does this ancient text feel more urgent today than ever before? The exclusion of the Book of Enoch from the biblical canon wasn't a simple oversight. It was a deliberate choice, one wrapped in theological tension and political maneuvering. To understand why, we have to step back into the turbulent debates that shaped early religious authority. During the first few centuries after Christ, church leaders faced a monumental task, defining which texts held divine authority and which strayed into dangerous territory. The Book of Enoch, with its vivid accounts of fallen angels and celestial secrets, posed a unique challenge. It wasn't just its controversial content that unsettled authorities. It was the way it blurred sacred boundaries, offering revelations that didn't fit neatly into emerging Christian doctrine. Take the Watchers, for example. These rebellious angels who descended to earth and fathered the Nephilim, giant hybrid beings, directly contradicted the Church's growing emphasis on orderly divine hierarchy. Early theologians like Augustine argued that angels, as purely spiritual beings, couldn't possibly engage in such physical corruption. Enoch's narrative threatened to undermine foundational teachings about the nature of sin and the divine order. But the resistance wasn't purely theological. There were practical concerns too. As the Church sought to consolidate its influence, texts that encouraged esoteric knowledge or alternative spiritual paths were seen as risks. The Book of Enoch, with its emphasis on hidden wisdom and apocalyptic visions, didn't align with the structured, unified message religious leaders wanted to promote. Yet the suppression wasn't universal. Some early Christian writers, like Tertullian, openly revered Enoch's prophecies, and Ethiopian Christians never stopped treating it as scripture. This split highlights a crucial truth: canonization was as much about power as piety. The councils and bishops who decided the Bible's final form weren't just weighing spiritual merit, they were making strategic choices about which texts would reinforce institutional control. Enoch's absence, then, isn't just a historical footnote. It's a window into how religious authority shapes what we consider sacred and what gets left in the shadows. So what does this mean for us today? The Book of Enoch's suppression invites deeper questions about who gets to decide what's true, what's forbidden, and why. Its survival against the odds suggests that some truths are too powerful to stay buried. Whether you view it as divine revelation or ancient myth, its journey through history forces us to confront the messy, human side of faith, where dogma and mystery are forever locked in tension. Enoch's cosmic journey reads like something ripped straight from a modern sci-fi epic, except this was written millennia ago, long before humanity had telescopes or space travel. According to the text, Enoch didn't just glimpse the divine, he was taken on a guided tour through the heavens, witnessing realities beyond human comprehension. His first vision begins with a whirlwind, a celestial chariot of fire whisking him upward through layers of sky, each more breathtaking than the last. The higher he ascends, the more the familiar world falls away. He describes realms of crystalline light where the air itself hums with energy and palaces of flame hover in the void. Then comes the throne room, a sight so overwhelming, Enoch struggles to put it into words. Picture a sea of liquid fire shifting like molten glass, and above it, a figure so radiant that mere mortals couldn't survive the gaze. The text calls this the Great Glory, a presence surrounded by towering beings with countless eyes and wings, their voices shaking the foundations of creation. But it's not just the spectacle that stuns, it's the precision of the hierarchy. Enoch meticulously records the ranks of angels, from the serene watchers who govern the stars to the fiery seraphim who stand nearest the throne. Some angels control the winds, others the movements of celestial bodies, each with a purpose so specific it reveals a universe of intricate order. Yet amid this harmony, Enoch also uncovers a darker truth. The rebel watchers, once entrusted with divine secrets, now chained in darkness for their betrayal. The imagery here isn't just poetic, it's architectural. Enoch maps the cosmos like a blueprint, detailing multiple heavens, each with its own function. The first heaven holds the storehouses of snow and wind, the second a prison for the fallen, the third the paradise where the righteous await judgment. By the time he reaches the seventh heaven, the descriptions become almost psychedelic, a realm of indescribable color and sound where time collapses and the very fabric of reality bends. What makes these accounts so gripping isn't just their grandeur, but their eerie resonance with modern near-death experiences and alien abduction narratives. Enoch's visions of floating cities, biomechanical angels, and interdimensional travel feel strangely contemporary, as if he's describing technologies or phenomena we're only now beginning to grasp. Whether divine revelation or ancient allegory, his journey forces us to ask, are these mere metaphors, or could they be fragments of a lost understanding, one that saw the cosmos not as empty space, but as a living, layered universe teeming with intelligence? The Watchers stand at the heart of the Book of Enoch's mystery, celestial beings who crossed a line so profound, their actions reshaped the destiny of humanity. According to the text, these weren't just ordinary angels. They were a high-ranking order entrusted with watching over the earth, but something went terribly wrong. Drawn by desire or ambition, they abandoned their posts, descending to the mortal realm in a rebellion that would echo through history. The details are startling. These beings took human wives, fathered hybrid children known as the Nephilim, and shared secrets so dangerous they were never meant for human hands. But who or what were the Watchers really? Traditional interpretations view them through a theological lens, fallen angels who corrupted divine order, their actions triggering the Great Flood as punishment. Their forbidden teachings, ranging from metallurgy to astrology, were seen as corruptions of sacred knowledge, gifts that twisted humanity's innocence into violence and greed. Yet there's another, more provocative reading that's gained traction in recent decades. What if the Watchers weren't supernatural entities at all, but advanced beings mistaken for angels? Ancient astronaut theorists point to Enoch's descriptions. Their towering stature, their mastery of technology like arts, even their burning appearance as potential evidence of extraterrestrial visitors. The parallels are hard to ignore. The Watchers' teachings mirror what we might call scientific advancement, agriculture, weapon-making, even cosmetics. Could these have been survival skills passed down by star travelers stranded on Earth? And their hybrid offspring, the Nephilim, described as giants who ravaged the land, sound eerily like genetic experiments gone wrong. Enoch's account of their destruction paints a scene that could easily be reinterpreted as an orbital strike or advanced warfare. Yet the most fascinating detail lies in Enoch's own transformation. After his encounters with the Watchers and their celestial punishment, he returns with a changed body, his flesh glowing, his very biology altered. Ancient texts describe him eating angelic bread, a substance that sustains him beyond normal human limits. To some, this echoes modern accounts of genetic modification or advanced nutrition given to contactees. The beauty of the Watcher's story is its duality. It refuses to be pinned down to a single interpretation. Whether divine or extraterrestrial, their tale forces us to confront a deeper question. How do we explain encounters with beings so far beyond our understanding that every culture, every era, frames them through the lens of its own beliefs? The Watcher's legacy isn't just about ancient rebellion. It's about the eternal human struggle to reconcile the unexplainable. And that's what keeps us coming back, century after century, searching for answers in the shadows between myth and memory. The Nephilim emerge from the pages of the Book of Enoch, not just as footnotes in an ancient text, but as towering, terrifying figures who reshaped the world before the Great Flood. These hybrid beings, born from the union of Watchers and human women, were no ordinary offspring. Enoch describes them as giants, their height stretching far beyond human limits, their strength so immense they could reshape landscapes with their bare hands. But their legacy wasn't just physical, it was cultural. the Nephilim became tyrants, warriors, and kings, spreading chaos and bloodshed until the earth itself cried out for justice. Archaeology offers tantalizing clues that blur the line between myth and history. Across the globe, from the megalithic ruins of Baalbek to the massive skeletal remains reportedly unearthed in 19th century America, there are whispers of a forgotten race of giants. Ancient texts beyond the Bible echo this theme. Greek myths spoke of the Titans, the Hindu Puranas describe the Daityas, and even Native American traditions tell of red-haired giants like the Tka. Could these scattered legends point to a shared memory of the Nephilim? Some researchers argue yes, pointing to anomalous skeletal finds with elongated skulls or double rows of teeth as potential evidence. Yet mainstream science remains skeptical, dismissing most claims as hoaxes or misidentified fossils. Modern conspiracy theories take the speculation even further. Some suggest the Nephilim's bloodline never truly died out, that their descendants became the ruling elite, hidden in plain sight, pulling the strings of power across millennia. Others tie them to secret societies guarding forbidden knowledge, or even to extraterrestrial hybrids walking among us today. Whether you find these ideas compelling or outlandish, they share a common thread: the enduring fascination with beings who defy the boundaries of what it means to be human. The true power of the Nephilim story lies in its symbolism. They represent the dangers of crossing unthinkable boundaries, whether divine, genetic, or technological. In an age where bioengineering and artificial intelligence push the limits of human potential, Enoch's warning feels eerily relevant. What happens when we tamper with forces beyond our understanding? The Nephilim stand as a cautionary tale, a reminder that some lines once crossed can't be uncrossed. Their shadow lingers not just in ancient texts, but in our deepest anxieties about who or what we might become. Enoch's prophecies of the Great Flood aren't just echoes of Noah's story. They're a chilling expansion of it, filled with details so unsettling they were almost erased from history. Unlike the biblical account, which focuses on Noah's righteousness and the ark's construction, Enoch's version pulls back the curtain on the celestial drama that triggered the catastrophe. According to his visions, the flood wasn't merely divine punishment for human wickedness. It was a cosmic reset, a desperate measure to cleanse the earth of the Watchers' corruption and their monstrous offspring. Enoch describes standing before the heavenly throne, hearing the verdict firsthand. The world would be purged by water, leaving only a remnant to start anew. What makes these prophecies so explosive isn't just their content, but Enoch's role as the messenger. He wasn't just a passive observer. He was sent back to Earth to deliver warnings to both the Watchers and humanity. Picture the scene: a man who'd walked among angels, his body transformed by celestial light, confronting the very beings who defied heaven. His words carried the weight of divine fury, yet also a sliver of hope. The Watchers, realizing their doom, begged Enoch to intercede for them, but the judgment was irrevocable. Their fate was sealed, bound in darkness until the final reckoning. Parallels with Noah's story reveal a fascinating duality. While Genesis simplifies the flood's cause as human sin, Enoch's narrative ties it directly to the Watchers' rebellion, painting a fuller picture of the chaos that necessitated the deluge. Both accounts share eerie similarities: the emphasis on preserving righteous bloodlines, the cosmic scale of destruction, even the symbolism of water as both death and rebirth. But Enoch's version digs deeper, suggesting the flood wasn't just about washing away evil, it was about severing humanity's tainted connection to forbidden knowledge. The Watchers had taught secrets too advanced for their time: weapon-making, sorcery, even the art of deception. By drowning the world, the divine plan wasn't just punishment, it was containment. Yet the most provocative question remains: why were these prophecies suppressed? The answer lies in their radical theology. Enoch's flood narrative undermines tidy notions of human guilt by shifting blame to celestial rebels. It suggests that corruption came not from within but from above, a dangerous idea for religious institutions built on moral accountability. Worse still, it implies that knowledge itself can be a curse, a theme that challenges any authority claiming exclusive access to truth. No wonder early church fathers like Jerome dismissed Enoch's writings as fables. They weren't just uncomfortable, they were incendiary. Today, these prophecies resonate with uncanny relevance. In an age of runaway technology and genetic experimentation, Enoch's warnings about forbidden knowledge feel less like ancient myth and more like a cautionary tale for our times. The flood becomes a metaphor for unintended consequences. What happens when progress outpaces wisdom? Whether viewed as divine revelation or allegory, Enoch's message endures. Some boundaries exist for a reason, and crossing them can unleash forces beyond our control. The real mystery isn't whether the flood happened, it's whether we're repeating the same mistakes, blind to the rising waters around us. One of the most mind-bending aspects of the Book of Enoch isn't just its spiritual revelations, it's the shockingly precise astronomical knowledge embedded in its pages. Enoch describes celestial mechanics with a level of detail that seems impossible for an ancient text, mapping out solar cycles, lunar movements, and even cosmic gates that regulate the seasons. These aren't vague, poetic metaphors, they're systematic observations that align eerily with both ancient star lore and modern scientific understanding. Take his description of the sun's journey through the heavens. Enoch writes that it moves through 6 gates in the east and 6 in the west, shifting paths over a 12-month cycle to create the seasons. This mirrors the solar declination we now understand through astronomy, the sun's apparent movement north and south across the sky throughout the year. But here's what's truly baffling. How did an ancient scribe without telescopes or advanced mathematics grasp concepts that would take centuries for modern science to formalize? Even more fascinating are Enoch's descriptions of the moon's phases and its relationship to the solar calendar. He details a 364-day solar year divided into 4 equal seasons, each beginning on specific dates tied to celestial events. While this differs slightly from our modern 365, 24-day year, it's strikingly close and far more accurate than many contemporary ancient calendars. Some scholars suggest this system reflects an older, pre-Babylonian astronomical tradition, one that was later suppressed or forgotten. Others propose something more radical, that Enoch's celestial knowledge wasn't human in origin at all, but imparted by the Watchers themselves. The text explicitly states that the rebellious angels taught humanity the motion of the celestial bodies, hinting at a transfer of advanced cosmic understanding. Then there's the mystery of the gates. Enoch describes these as portals in the fabric of heaven, governing the movements of stars, winds, and weather. Modern readers might dismiss this as mythology until they consider how closely it parallels astrophysical phenomena like solar wind or cosmic radiation belts. Could these gates be symbolic representations of celestial mechanics or something even more profound? Ancient astronaut theorists point out that similar gate imagery appears in Sumerian and Egyptian texts, often linked to the journeys of gods. The consistency across cultures raises a tantalizing question. Were these myths or fragmented memories of lost astronomical teachings? The precision of Enoch's cosmic vision becomes even more startling when compared to ancient observatories like Stonehenge or the Nebra sky disk. These artifacts prove that prehistoric cultures tracked celestial events with astonishing accuracy. Yet Enoch's descriptions go further, suggesting an integrated cosmological model, one where heaven and earth operate in sync, governed by divine mathematics. This wasn't just stargazing, it was a sophisticated attempt to decode the universe's blueprint. Whether divine revelation or preserved ancient science, the Book of Enoch forces us to reconsider how much our ancestors really knew and what secrets might still be hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to rediscover them. The Book of Parables stands out as one of the most enigmatic sections of the Book of Enoch, weaving together celestial visions of a messianic figure and a final judgment so cataclysmic it reshapes the cosmos. Here, Enoch describes encounters with a being called the Son of Man, a radiant, pre-existent figure seated on a throne of glory, destined to execute divine justice. This isn't just a distant prophecy, it's a cosmic courtroom drama where the watchers, the stars, and even the elements themselves are called to account. What makes these visions so explosive is how they parallel and possibly predate later messianic ideas in both Christianity and Judaism. This Son of Man isn't a humble teacher or suffering servant. He's a warrior king wielding authority to judge the wicked and overthrow the rebellious powers of heaven and earth. Enoch sees him as a divine agent chosen before creation to restore balance to a corrupted world. The imagery is vivid, thrones overturned, mountains melting like wax, and the celestial order itself reconfigured. But the most striking detail is how this figure bridges heavenly and earthly realms, embodying both justice and mercy. Early Christian writers would later adopt similar language for Jesus, particularly in the Book of Revelation, where echoes of Enoch's visions resound in scenes of a returning conqueror and a final reckoning. Jewish eschatology, too, carries traces of these themes. The idea of a messianic era culminating in divine judgment appears in texts like the Book of Daniel and later Kabbalistic writings, suggesting a shared tradition wrestling with the same questions. How does evil meet its end? Who arbitrates ultimate justice? Enoch's answer is breathtaking in its scope. The Son of Man doesn't just judge individuals. He dismantles systems of oppression, even calling fallen celestial powers to account. This wasn't merely theology, it was revolutionary ideology, offering hope to the persecuted that their tormentors, whether human or supernatural, would face an inescapable verdict. Yet the Book of Parables goes further, blending judgment with cosmic renewal. After the purging fire and trembling earth comes an astonishing vision, a new creation free from corruption, where righteousness flourishes like an unending spring. This wasn't just about punishment, it was about restoration, a theme that would deeply influence later apocalyptic movements. From the Dead Sea Scrolls to medieval mystical texts, the idea of a universe rebooted to its original purity surfaces again and again, tracing its roots back to Enoch's electrifying prophecies. What remains so compelling today is how these ancient visions still speak to our deepest longings for justice, for meaning, for a world set right. Whether read as divine revelation or as the cry of an oppressed people, the Book of Parables forces us to confront the timeless question, what if the universe isn't indifferent? What if, beyond the chaos, there's a reckoning and a redemption written into the fabric of reality itself? The influence of the Book of Enoch on early Christianity runs deeper than most people realize. Threads of its teachings weave through the New Testament itself, leaving traces that scholars still debate to this day. Take the brief but explosive mention in the Book of Jude, where the author directly quotes Enoch's prophecy about the Lord coming with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment. This isn't just a passing reference, it's a deliberate nod to a text early Christian communities clearly knew and respected. Jude even names Enoch specifically as the seventh from Adam, anchoring his authority in sacred lineage. But here's what's striking, Jude wasn't alone. Other New Testament writers, from Peter to Paul, echo Enochian themes: fallen angels bound in chains, the corruption of the pre-flood world, even the cosmic scope of divine judgment. Early church fathers were equally divided on Enoch's legacy. Some, like Tertullian, championed the book as divinely inspired, arguing its exclusion from the canon was a tragic oversight. In his writings, he famously called Enoch the oldest prophet, framing his visions as foundational to understanding Christ's return. Others, like Augustine, dismissed it as dangerous mythology, too entwined with apocalyptic fervor and speculative cosmology. This tension reveals a crucial truth. the Book of Enoch didn't just exist on the fringes of early Christianity. It sparked theological fires, forcing leaders to grapple with its explosive claims about angelic rebellion, hybrid beings, and the mechanics of divine justice. Even beyond direct quotes, Enoch's fingerprints appear in early Christian art and liturgy. Scenes of the Watcher's fall decorated ancient catacombs, while prayers for deliverance from evil spirits mirrored Enoch's warnings about corrupt celestial powers. Some scholars argue that core Christian concepts, like the Son of Man in the Gospels, draw heavily from Enoch's messianic figure, a radiant judge descending from heaven. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church went further, preserving Enoch as scripture long after the Western Church set it aside. Their liturgy still sings of Enoch's ascent, keeping alive traditions that others tried to erase. What makes this influence so fascinating isn't just its historical impact, it's the unresolved questions it raises. Why did some early Christians cling to Enoch's visions while others suppressed them? Was it the book's raw, unflinching portrayal of cosmic rebellion that unsettled authorities, or its subversive suggestion that divine knowledge could exist outside institutional control? Either way, Enoch's shadow lingers, a reminder that the edges of sacred tradition are often where the most provocative truths hide. And for those willing to look closely, his influence on early Christianity isn't just a footnote. It's a doorway into the tumultuous, visionary world that shaped faith as we know it. While most of the Christian world relegated the Book of Enoch to obscurity, one ancient tradition held onto it with unwavering devotion: the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Unlike any other branch of Christianity, they didn't just preserve Enoch's writings, they enshrined them as sacred scripture, reading them aloud in liturgy and copying them meticulously for over 1,000 years. But why? The answer lies in Ethiopia's unique spiritual heritage, a lineage tracing back to the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon, intertwined with a deep reverence for texts considered too radical elsewhere. While Western churches debated Enoch's legitimacy, Ethiopian scribes safeguarded it in Ge'ez, their classical liturgical language, ensuring its survival when other versions crumbled into dust. Ge'ez itself holds the key to this preservation. A language frozen in time, used exclusively for religious texts, it became a vault for Enoch's visions. Ethiopian monks treated these manuscripts as living treasures, recopying them by hand generation after generation, often guarding them in remote mountain monasteries. The most famous of these copies, the Garima Gospels, demonstrates the astonishing care taken with sacred texts, some so old they predate the Islamic conquests. But Enoch's status in Ethiopia wasn't just about preservation, it was about integration. Unlike in the West, where Enoch's cosmic visions clashed with institutional theology, Ethiopian spirituality embraced the mystical. The Watchers, the Nephilim, even the celestial journeys, these weren't fringe ideas but pillars of a cosmology that saw heaven and earth as intimately connected. The cultural significance runs even deeper. Ethiopian tradition holds that Enoch himself founded their ancient astronomical practices, tying his revelations to the very rhythms of their calendar and agriculture. This wasn't abstract theology, it shaped daily life. Farmers still plant by celestial signs some scholars trace to Enoch's solar calendar. Even the architecture of rock-hewn churches like Lalibela, said to be built with angelic guidance, echoes his descriptions of heavenly temples. The book's endurance here speaks to something profound, a spiritual worldview unafraid of mystery, where divine encounters weren't just history but ongoing reality. What makes Ethiopia's embrace of Enoch so revolutionary isn't just its defiance of broader Christian norms, it's the implicit challenge to those who claimed exclusive authority over sacred texts. While other churches filtered scripture through councils and creeds, Ethiopia's faith rested on a simpler premise. If a text revealed divine truth, it belonged in the canon, regardless of external approval. This boldness preserved not just Enoch but other contested works like Jubilees, creating a biblical tradition far richer and more enigmatic than the familiar 66-book Bible. Today, as scholars rediscover these texts, Ethiopia's steadfast faithfulness offers a humbling lesson that sometimes the margins guard the center's forgotten truths. The Book of Enoch doesn't stand alone in its visions of cosmic upheaval and divine judgment. It's part of a rich tapestry of apocalyptic literature that spans centuries and cultures. Yet when placed alongside other prophetic texts like Daniel, Revelation, or the Apocrypha, its uniqueness becomes unmistakable. Take the Book of Daniel, for example. Both texts share themes of heavenly visions and end times reckoning, but Daniel's prophecies are tightly focused on earthly kingdoms and political upheaval. His imagery, statues of gold and clay, beasts rising from the sea, serves as coded commentary on empires like Babylon and Rome. Enoch, by contrast, zooms out to a cosmic scale, revealing interdimensional battles between angelic forces and the very mechanics of the universe. Where Daniel sees history as a series of human dominions, Enoch frames it as a spiritual war with stakes far beyond any single nation. Then there's the Book of Revelation, perhaps the most famous apocalyptic text in the Christian canon. At first glance, the parallels seem obvious. Both describe heavenly thrones, catastrophic judgments, and a messianic figure triumphant over evil. But dig deeper, and the differences are staggering. Revelation's symbolism is dense and often cryptic, its 7 seals and trumpets layered with numerical codes. Enoch's apocalypse, on the other hand, unfolds with startling clarity. Its punishments aren't abstract plagues, but direct consequences of the Watcher's rebellion, floods, fire, and celestial prisons. Even their portrayal of the divine differs sharply. Revelation's God is distant, awe-inspiring in his inaccessibility, while Enoch's deity invites intimate dialogue, sending his human messenger into the very heart of heavenly councils. The Apocrypha offers even more striking contrasts. Texts like 2nd Esdras or the Apocalypse of Baruch grapple with theodicy, why a just God permits suffering, but their answers remain earthbound, wrestling with questions of exile and covenant. Enoch dares to suggest that humanity's suffering stems not from divine caprice, but from celestial treason. Its cosmology is bolder, suggesting that the material world itself bears scars of angelic corruption. This isn't just theology, it's a full-blown mythos explaining everything from natural disasters to human violence as fallout from a war in heaven. What truly sets Enoch apart, though, is its raw, unfiltered mysticism. While other apocalyptic authors receive dreams or symbolic visions, Enoch claims to have physically traversed the heavens, walking among angels and recording their secrets firsthand. His descriptions of celestial geography, multiple layered heavens, storehouses of weather, prisons for fallen stars feel more like interdimensional travelogues than symbolic poetry. This experiential quality gives the text an urgency and immediacy lacking in more polished apocalyptic works, but perhaps the most revealing difference lies in their reception. While Daniel and Revelation were canonized and endlessly interpreted by religious authorities, Enoch was marginalized not because it lacked influence, but because its revelations were too explosive to control. It didn't just predict the future, it exposed the hidden machinery of the universe, offering knowledge that threatened institutional power. In that sense, Enoch's exclusion proves its potency. Other apocalyptic texts warn of what's to come. Enoch reveals what's already happened and who's really pulling the strings. That's why, centuries later, it still feels dangerous. Not as a relic of ancient fear, but as a key to understanding the unseen forces shaping our world. The forbidden teachings of the Watchers read like an ancient instruction manual for jump-starting civilization or corrupting it beyond repair. According to the Book of Enoch, these fallen angels didn't just interfere with human affairs. They handed over knowledge so potent it altered the trajectory of our species. The text lists their gifts with eerie specificity, metallurgy for crafting weapons, herbalism for potions, even the art of making cosmetics to enhance beauty. On the surface, these might seem like neutral skills tools for progress, but context changes everything. These weren't just lessons, they were breaches of divine law, secrets ripped from the celestial vault before humanity was ready to wield them responsibly. Take metallurgy as the prime example. The Watchers taught humans to forge swords and shields, transforming Stone Age societies into warriors capable of unprecedented violence. This wasn't merely technological advancement, it was an escalation, a shift from survival to domination. Ancient myths worldwide echo this theme, from the Greek Prometheus gifting fire to the Mesopotamian legend of the Apkallu, semi-divine beings who brought arts of civilization before the flood. The pattern is undeniable. When higher beings share advanced knowledge, chaos follows. Enoch's narrative suggests these weren't benevolent transfers of wisdom, but calculated acts of rebellion designed to arm humanity against heaven itself. Then there's the darker curriculum magic. The Watchers revealed spells to bind spirits, divination to unveil the future, and astrological rites to manipulate cosmic forces. These arts blurred the line between practical knowledge and esoteric power, tempting humans to play God. Ancient Jewish traditions called this the ways of the Amorites, forbidden practices that entangled users in dangerous spiritual contracts. The irony is striking. The same beings tasked with guarding divine mysteries became the very source of their corruption. Their teachings didn't enlighten, they ensnared, turning spiritual seekers into practitioners of what Enoch condemns as works of deception. Perhaps most controversial are the cosmetic arts. The text describes women learning to adorn themselves with kohl and jewelry, techniques that allegedly stoked vanity and lust. This detail often gets overlooked, but it's pivotal. The Watchers didn't just weaponize humanity, they eroticized it, amplifying primal instincts that could destabilize communities. Some scholars interpret this as patriarchal fear of female agency, while others see a deeper critique. When superficial allure becomes a tool of manipulation, even beauty distorts into a weapon. The central debate rages on. Were these teachings inherently evil or merely dangerous in untrained hands? Followers of Gnostic traditions argue the Watchers were liberators, shattering ignorance imposed by a tyrannical god. Mainstream theology, however, paints them as corruptors, exploiting humanity's naivety to spite their creator. Modern parallels abound. From nuclear physics to AI, we still grapple with technologies that promise salvation but risk annihilation. The Watcher's legacy forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Knowledge isn't neutral. Its power depends entirely on who wields it and why. And sometimes the most dangerous gifts aren't the ones withheld, but the ones given too soon. Enoch's solar calendar isn't just an ancient timekeeping system, it's a mathematical marvel that defies expectations for its era. Unlike the lunar calendars used by most surrounding cultures, which required constant adjustments to stay in sync with the seasons, Enoch's 364-day model operates with almost mechanical precision. Divided into 4 equal seasons of exactly 91 days each, with each quarter further split into 3 30-day months plus a single intercalary day. This system creates a rhythmic symmetry that feels almost too perfect for chance. But here's what's truly astonishing. While most ancient calendars drifted out of alignment, requiring messy additions like leap months, Enoch's version remains fixed, its structure mirroring celestial patterns with uncanny accuracy. How could a text supposedly written millennia ago embed such sophisticated astronomy? The secret lies in its design. Enoch's calendar isn't just tracking time, it's encoding sacred geometry. Each of its 52 weeks corresponds to one of the 52 heavenly princes described elsewhere in the text, binding earthly cycles to angelic governance. Solar and agricultural events align precisely with its framework. Equinoxes and solstices always fall on the same calendar dates. Planting and harvest seasons stay locked in place, even the phases of the moon sync up in predictable patterns. For agrarian societies, this reliability would have been revolutionary. No guessing, no priestly decrees, just a self-correcting cosmic clock. Yet this very perfection sparked conflict. When the Qumran community guardians of the Dead Sea Scrolls adopted Enoch's calendar, they weren't just making a practical choice. They were taking a stand against the lunar-solar hybrid used by the Jerusalem Temple, a system tied to political authority and prone to manipulation. For these separatists, Enoch's unchanging calendar symbolized divine order amidst human corruption. Their scrolls reveal meticulous observations confirming its accuracy, along with fierce polemics against those who strayed from the proper times. This wasn't just a scholarly debate, it was a spiritual rebellion, a refusal to let earthly powers dictate sacred rhythms. Modern scholars still grapple with the calendar's implications. Some argue its mathematical elegance points to lost pre-Babylonian knowledge, while others see echoes of advanced Egyptian or Mesopotamian astronomy. But the most provocative theory, that Enoch's calendar isn't human at all, that its design reflects celestial mechanics as observed from beyond Earth's atmosphere. Whether divine revelation or preserved ancient science, one thing's certain: this wasn't just a way to mark days, it was a blueprint for harmonizing human life with the universe itself, a challenge to every system that came after. And buried in its numbers might just be secrets we're still rediscovering. Enoch's legacy didn't end with his celestial ascent. His bloodline, whispered about in ancient texts and secret traditions, weaves through history like a golden thread connecting mystics, kings, and shadowy orders. Among the most enigmatic of his purported descendants is Melchizedek, the mysterious king of Salem and priest of the Most High, who appears abruptly in Genesis, blessing Abraham before vanishing without explanation. Unlike other biblical figures, Melchizedek has no recorded genealogy, no birth or death, just a fleeting cameo that hints at something beyond human. Jewish and early Christian mystics speculated wildly about his origins, some claiming he was a divine being, others insisting he was Enoch's grandson, carrying forward the patriarch's otherworldly wisdom. The Dead Sea Scrolls even describe Melchizedek as a celestial judge, a cosmic figure who would one day destroy evil, echoes of Enoch's own messianic visions. Secret societies have latched onto this connection for centuries. The Knights Templar, rumored to have uncovered lost scrolls beneath Solomon's temple, venerated Melchizedek as a proto-Templar, a warrior priest guarding sacred knowledge. Later, esoteric orders like the Rosicrucians and Freemasons enshrined him in their rituals, seeing in his dual role as king and priest a blueprint for enlightened leadership. Masonic initiation rites explicitly link their craft to the Melchizedek tradition, a lineage of hidden wisdom passed from Enoch through the ages. Even modern conspiracy theories tie him to shadowy elites. The idea that certain bloodlines, blessed or cursed with ancient knowledge, still pull the strings of power today. But Melchizedek isn't the only shadowy descendant. Ethiopian legends speak of a line of priest kings descended from Enoch, said to possess the eyes of heaven, an ability to perceive celestial truth. The Lemba people of southern Africa claim ancestry from a seafaring tribe of Enoch's progeny, their oral histories recalling star maps and lost technologies. And then there's the strange case of the Druze, a secretive Middle Eastern sect who revere Enoch as a prophet and guard teachings about the hidden ones, a race of enlightened beings who walk among us. What unites these threads is the persistent idea that Enoch's lineage carries more than just DNA, it's a vessel for forbidden insight. Whether through genuine belief or symbolic myth-making, his descendants become keepers of a puzzle too tantalizing to ignore, that some families might inherit not just land or titles but cosmic secrets. And whether you see these claims as spiritual truth or psychological archetype, they reveal humanity's endless fascination with the idea that knowledge, real, transformative knowledge, might still be out there, locked in the bloodlines of those who walked with angels. For centuries, the Book of Enoch existed only in whispers, fragments cited by early church fathers, cryptic references in medieval grimoires, and guarded traditions in Ethiopian monasteries. That all changed in 1773 when a Scottish explorer named James Bruce returned from Ethiopia clutching 3 precious manuscripts written in Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language. Among them was a complete copy of the Book of Enoch, preserved untouched while the Western world had forgotten its very existence. Bruce's discovery sent shockwaves through European intellectual circles, but it wasn't until 1821 that the text truly entered the modern consciousness. That's when Richard Lawrence, an Oxford professor, published the first English translation, unveiling Enoch's visions to a world hungry for esoteric knowledge. Lawrence's work wasn't just academic, it was revolutionary. Suddenly, scholars could read firsthand about the Watchers, the Nephilim, and Enoch's celestial journeys, all from a text older than most biblical books. The impact was immediate. Theologians debated its authenticity, while historians pored over its parallels with ancient Near Eastern myths. But the most passionate reception came from an unexpected corner, the burgeoning occult revival. Figures like Eliphas Levi, the father of modern ceremonial magic, seized upon Enoch's descriptions of angelic hierarchies and divine names, weaving them into new frameworks of esoteric practice. Suddenly, this forgotten book became a cornerstone of secret societies, its passages quoted in rituals and its cosmology mapped onto tarot cards and Kabbalistic diagrams. The 19th century's obsession with ancient wisdom reached fever pitch when Helena Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical Society, declared the Book of Enoch a key to humanity's spiritual evolution. Her writings linked Enoch's watchers to the Mahatmas, ascended masters she claimed guided civilization from the shadows. This fusion of East and West science and mysticism gave Enoch's text a new life as a bridge between worlds. Meanwhile, in America, the Mormon prophet Joseph Smith incorporated Enochian themes into his revelations, including visions of a city of Zion taken heavenward, a clear echo of Enoch's own ascension. Archaeology added fuel to the fire when the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the 1940s. Among the trove of ancient manuscripts were multiple Aramaic fragments of the Book of Enoch, proving its widespread circulation in Jewish communities centuries before Christ. Scholars like J.T. Millick painstakingly reconstructed these texts, revealing variations that hinted at an even more complex literary history. Today, digital scans and collaborative translations make Enoch's words more accessible than ever, yet the mystery only deepens. With each new discovery, we're forced to ask, why does this ancient text, buried and rediscovered so many times, still feel like it's whispering secrets meant for our age? Centuries after the Book of Enoch vanished from mainstream religious tradition, its echoes resurfaced in the most unexpected way through the cryptic rituals of Elizabethan England's most enigmatic scholar. In the 1580s, John Dee, royal astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I, claimed to have unlocked a divine language whispered to him by angels. This wasn't just any code, he called it Enochian, a tongue supposedly spoken by the biblical patriarch himself during his heavenly journeys. Dee and his scribe, Edward Kelly, transcribed entire alphabets and incantations through intense seances, insisting these were the very words Enoch used to commune with celestial beings. The parallels are striking. Just as Enoch described multiple layers of heaven, Dee's Enochian system mapped out 30 ethers, spiritual realms accessible through ritual. His angelic conversations even referenced the Watchers, warning of their ancient rebellion as a caution against misuse of this power. Whether Dee truly tapped into an unbroken esoteric tradition or creatively reimagined Enoch's legacy, his work forged a bridge between ancient mysticism and modern occultism. By the late 19th century, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secret society shaping Western esotericism, integrated Dee's Enochian magic into its core teachings. Influential figures like Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers and Aleister Crowley refined the system, turning disjointed angelic dialogues into a structured practice. Golden Dawn initiates memorized Enochian calls, phonetic invocations believed to vibrate at frequencies that could tear open the veil between worlds. Their rituals mirrored Enoch's own celestial travels, using geometric symbols called sigils of the ethers as gateways to higher realms. Crowley took this further, claiming to have traversed all 30 ethers during his North African expeditions, documenting encounters with entities eerily reminiscent of Enoch's watchers. What began as an obscure Renaissance curiosity had evolved into a full-fledged mystical technology, its roots stretching back to that forbidden biblical text. Today, Enochian magic thrives in occult circles, though interpretations vary wildly. Some practitioners treat it as a psychological tool, a way to explore the subconscious through symbolic language. Others insist it's a literal angelic cipher, capable of manifesting real-world change when spoken correctly. Contemporary grimoires detail how to construct Enochian temples in sacred geometry, using the original angelic alphabet to inscribe protective wards or summon celestial guides. Even chaos magicians who blend postmodern skepticism with ritual adapt Enochian vibrations for their own purposes, proof of its enduring flexibility. Yet the most fascinating twist lies in how modern technology has revived interest in these ancient practices. Digital apps now generate Enochian sigils instantly, while online communities crowdsource translations of Dee's original diaries. Scientists have even analyzed the linguistic structure of Enochian, noting its grammatical consistency uncommon for invented languages. Whether divine revelation or elaborate fiction, the system's resilience speaks to humanity's timeless hunger to access what Enoch once witnessed, the hidden architecture behind reality itself. The Book of Enoch warned that some knowledge was too dangerous for mortals, but as Dee and his successors proved, that warning only makes the pursuit more irresistible. What if the Book of Enoch wasn't just spiritual revelation, but a coded scientific manual? Modern researchers have combed through its cryptic passages, uncovering descriptions that eerily mirror concepts like electromagnetism, quantum entanglement, and even multiverse theory. Take Enoch's vivid account of wheels within wheels ablaze with living fire, their movements synchronized without physical contact. To some, this isn't just angelic imagery, it's a rudimentary grasp of electromagnetic fields where invisible forces govern motion. The text's portrayal of celestial bodies as conscious entities, singing to one another across the void, has drawn comparisons to quantum vibration theories, where particles communicate instantaneously regardless of distance. Even Enoch's layered heavens, each operating under distinct physical laws, sound uncomfortably close to modern membrane theory's stacked dimensions, but separating plausible insight from wishful thinking requires rigor. When Enoch describes angelic bridges between realms, could this metaphorically represent wormholes or quantum tunnels? Certain passages suggest beings traverse vast cosmic distances in moments, a phenomenon resembling Einstein-Rosen bridges in theoretical physics. His depiction of stars as prisons for rebellious entities aligns oddly with black hole theories, where gravity's pull is inescapable. Even the infamous Watcher's punishment, bound in chaotic valleys of fire, reads like cosmic bodies trapped in plasma filaments, those twisting rivers of ionized gas observed in deep space telescopy. Yet fringe theories often overreach. Claims that Enoch predicted particle accelerators or nuclear fission stretch credibility, relying on vague phrasing ripped from context. The danger lies in retrofitting ancient mysticism with modern jargon. What's undeniable, though, is how Enoch's metaphors consistently resonate with scientific paradigms unknown to his era. Whether divine inspiration or astonishing intuition, the text prods at truth science is still unwrapping. Perhaps the real anomaly isn't the Book of Enoch, but our insistence that ancient minds couldn't glimpse what we've only just begun to understand. The mysterious figure of Enoch and his forbidden revelations have slithered their way into modern pop culture, appearing in everything from blockbuster novels to hidden indie video games, proof that these ancient themes still electrify contemporary imaginations. Philip Pullman's groundbreaking, his Dark Materials trilogy draws heavily from Enochian lore, particularly the idea of celestial rebellion and interdimensional travel. The character of Metatron, a towering, authoritarian angel who rules over the heavens, mirrors Enoch's descriptions of the Watcher's corruption, once divine messengers now drunk on power. Pullman's portrayal of dust, an invisible force connecting multiple worlds, echoes Enoch's layered cosmology, suggesting that even secular retellings can't escape the gravitational pull of these ancient ideas. Hollywood, too, has dipped into Enoch's mysteries, though often in coded or indirect ways. Darren Aronofsky's Noah wove threads of the Watcher's myth into its cinematic tapestry, depicting them as tragic, rock-covered beings trapped on Earth, a visual nod to Enoch's imprisoned rebels. Even the Supernatural TV series couldn't resist, dedicating entire arcs to Enochian magic and angelic civil wars, blending biblical urgency with modern grit. These adaptations may take liberties, but they underscore something vital. Enoch's narrative of divine insurrection and hidden knowledge translates effortlessly into today's language of antiheroes and cosmic conspiracies. Video games have embraced the lore even more boldly. The Shin Megami Tensei series pits players against factions of angels and demons straight out of Enoch's visions, while indie titles like The Endless Empty encode his calendar into their very mechanics, letting players manipulate time as if touching celestial gears. Then there's Darksiders, where the Nephilim aren't just footnotes, they're the apocalyptic cavalry, their hybrid nature twisting them into something neither human nor angel, but terrifyingly beyond both. Why does this ancient text keep resurfacing in modern media? Because at its core, Enoch's story is about forbidden truths and the cost of seeking them, themes that never go stale. Whether framed as angelic rebellion, alien intervention, or government cover-ups, the struggle between hidden knowledge and those who hoard it speaks to every generation. Enoch's enduring appeal lies in its adaptability. It's a story about power, curiosity, and the price of both, timeless fuel for any storyteller's fire. And as long as audiences crave tales of cosmic secrets and shadow wars, his visions will keep finding new life on screens and pages, whispering to us across millennia. The Book of Enoch's resurgence in modern times has unfortunately attracted more than just scholars and spiritual seekers. It's also become a magnet for hoaxes and sensationalist claims. Over the past few decades, numerous supposed lost versions of the text have surfaced, each promising explosive new revelations only to crumble under scrutiny. One notorious example emerged in 2014, when a self-proclaimed archaeologist claimed to have discovered a first Book of Enoch in a hidden Balkan cave. The manuscript, filled with dramatic illustrations of angelic battles and futuristic prophecies, quickly went viral online until experts pointed out glaring anachronisms in its language and imagery, proving it a clever forgery. These fabrications thrive because they prey on a very real hunger, the desire to uncover earth-shattering secrets deliberately hidden from the public. But the problem runs deeper than outright fraud. Misinterpretations of genuine Enochian material often spiral into elaborate conspiracy theories. Take the infamous Enochian Keys, a set of Renaissance-era angelic invocations recorded by John Dee. While these texts have legitimate historical value as occult artifacts, modern fringe groups have twisted them into claims of activating ancient apocalyptic codes. YouTube videos abound with dramatic recitations of these keys, asserting they can open interdimensional portals or summon watchers despite zero evidence linking Dee's work directly to the original Book of Enoch. The leap from historical curiosity to supernatural toolkit reveals how easily esoteric traditions get distorted in the digital age. even academic debates over authenticity sometimes veer into unsubstantiated territory. The discovery of Enoch fragments among the Dead Sea Scrolls validated the text's ancient origins, yet some theorists insist mainstream scholars are suppressing radical portions that describe advanced pre-flood technology or extraterrestrial contact. These claims often cite mistranslations or out-of-context passages, like interpreting Enoch's burning chariots as UFOs while ignoring their clear symbolic role in heavenly ascension narratives. Archaeology, when done responsibly, follows evidence, not wishful thinking. Yet the allure of secret knowledge keeps fueling these narratives, blurring the line between legitimate inquiry and fantasy. What makes these controversies so persistent is their half-truth nature. The real Book of Enoch does contain mind-bending elements, celestial travel, hybrid beings, catastrophic judgments that naturally invite speculation. But transforming its rich symbolism into literal sci-fi or doomsday prophecies misses the text's deeper purpose: to explore humanity's relationship with the divine through mythic language. Scholars like Dr. Michael Stone, who spent decades studying Enoch's various versions, emphasize that treating it as a puzzle to be solved, rather than a window into ancient spirituality, strips away its cultural and theological significance. The lesson here isn't to dismiss curiosity, it's to question why we so desperately want these texts to confirm modern biases. Whether it's projecting alien intervention onto angelic descriptions or framing Enoch as a proto-conspiracy theorist, these distortions say more about our times than the ancient world. The Book of Enoch survives because it challenges and mystifies, but to honor its legacy, we must engage with what it actually says, not what we wish it revealed. The Book of Enoch doesn't just belong to the past, it actively disrupts modern theology, forcing believers and skeptics alike to grapple with questions most organized religions would rather avoid. Its unflinching portrayal of divine rebellion and celestial corruption challenges foundational assumptions about the nature of evil, free will, and even the hierarchy of the cosmos. Traditional theology often frames suffering as a consequence of human sin or divine mystery, but Enoch throws a wrench into that narrative by suggesting corruption originated in heaven itself. What does it mean for faith if the problem isn't just humanity's fallen nature, but a celestial insurrection that tainted creation from the top down? This isn't abstract speculation, it's a radical reimagining of theodicy, one that resonates deeply in an age disillusioned with institutional answers to life's hardest questions. New Age and alternative spiritual movements have seized upon this ambiguity, weaving Enoch's themes into their own tapestries of belief. For seekers drawn to UFO religions like Rilism or the Ashtar Command, the Watchers aren't fallen angels, they're advanced extraterrestrials whose genetic experiments birthed humanity, a narrative that mirrors Enoch's account of the Nephilim but swaps divine judgment for cosmic curiosity. Channelers and lightworkers frequently cite Enoch's ascension as proof of humanity's latent potential to transcend physical limits, framing his transformation as an early example of what they now call starseed activation. Even the text's apocalyptic prophecies get reframed not as doom, but as allegories for planetary shifts in consciousness, where the Great Flood symbolizes a collective spiritual awakening. Yet Enoch's influence extends beyond the fringe. Progressive theologians are revisiting the text to reconcile its cosmic vision with contemporary science. The idea of multiple heavens, for instance, finds eerie parallels in multiverse theory, while the Watchers' hybridization of humanity raises ethical questions eerily similar to those posed by CRISPR and genetic engineering. Some Christian mystics argue Enoch's layered cosmology anticipates modern physics, suggesting his heavens could describe dimensional planes or quantum states beyond mundane perception. Even secular scholars acknowledge the text's uncanny relevance not as prophecy, but as a testament to humanity's enduring struggle to map the unknown. What makes Enoch uniquely potent today is its refusal to fit neatly into any box, religious or otherwise. It's a mirror reflecting back whatever the viewer brings to it, a warning for the devout, a manifesto for the rebellious, a puzzle for the scholarly. Whether you see it as sacred scripture, ancient sci-fi, or something in between, its enduring power lies in its ability to unsettle, to provoke, and most of all, to make us wonder what else might be hidden in plain sight. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Qumran caves didn't just revolutionize biblical scholarship, it reignited a centuries-old debate about the Book of Enoch's place in history. Among those ancient manuscripts, fragments of Enoch's writings emerged from the dust, written in Aramaic and dating back to at least the 2nd century BC. These weren't marginal notes or passing references, they were substantial portions of the text, proving its circulation among Jewish communities long before Christianity's rise. Yet the real bombshell lay in their condition, meticulously copied and preserved alongside canonical scriptures like Isaiah and Deuteronomy, suggesting these Enochian texts held comparable authority for the Qumran sect. Archaeologists were stunned. Here was concrete evidence that Enoch's visions weren't some fringe heresy but sacred scripture to at least one influential group. But the plot thickens when you examine the scholarly battles over these fragments. Some researchers, like Dr. J.T. Millick, argued the Aramaic versions were later compilations pieced together from older oral traditions. Others, like Dr. Michael Knibb, countered that the textual consistency across fragments pointed to a single, authoritative original, perhaps even predating parts of the Hebrew Bible. The dispute isn't just academic hair-splitting, it cuts to the heart of Enoch's origins. If the text was indeed crystallized earlier than assumed, its descriptions of heavenly realms and fallen angels might represent some of humanity's oldest surviving cosmological thought, influencing later works like Daniel and Revelation rather than the other way around. Beyond Qumran, other archaeological puzzles deepen the mystery. In Ethiopia, where the complete jazz version of Enoch survived, researchers have uncovered church relics depicting Enoch's ascension alongside biblical scenes, blending his story seamlessly into sacred art. Meanwhile, excavations near the Dead Sea reveal structures aligned with solstices echoes of Enoch's solar calendar, hinting that his timekeeping system might have been practiced, not just theorized. Even more tantalizing are the giant megaliths at Baalbek and other Levantine sites, which some fringe theorists link to the Nephilim's legendary prowess, though mainstream archaeology dismisses such claims as romantic speculation. The greatest unresolved question, why no Hebrew manuscript of Enoch survives outside Qumran? Was it systematically destroyed by later rabbinic authorities uncomfortable with its angelology? Or did it simply fade from use as Jewish thought centralized around the Torah? The absence speaks volumes, turning every recovered fragment into a potential key for reconstructing lost history. What's clear is this: archaeology keeps confirming Enoch's importance while deepening the enigma of its suppression. Each discovery peels back another layer, revealing a text too influential to ignore and too dangerous, it seems, to preserve without a fight. The suppression of the Book of Enoch wasn't just a quiet omission, it was a deliberate act of ideological gatekeeping, a calculated move by ancient power structures to control the narrative of divine truth. At its core, the text clashed with emerging religious authority on three explosive fronts. First, its radical cosmology disrupted the tidy hierarchy early church leaders were trying to enforce. By portraying celestial rebellion as the root of earthly corruption, Enoch undermined the doctrine that human sin alone necessitated salvation. This was dangerous theology. If angels could fall, then the divine order wasn't infallible, and if forbidden knowledge caused humanity's downfall, then ignorance might be safer than enlightenment. Church fathers like Augustine couldn't reconcile this with their vision of a perfectly ordered creation, so they labeled it myth and pushed it to the margins. Second, the book's revelatory nature threatened institutional control over spiritual access. Enoch didn't receive his visions through priestly channels or temple rituals. He ascended directly to the divine throne room, bypassing earthly intermediaries. For religious authorities consolidating power, this was heresy, a text that suggested anyone could commune with the divine outside approved structures was politically untenable. Compare this to the Gnostic Gospels, which met similar suppression for promoting direct mystical experience over ecclesiastical authority. Enoch's first-hand account of heavenly secrets posed the same threat. It democratized the sacred, making revelation personal rather than institutional. Third, and perhaps most telling, was its alignment with rival traditions. Enoch's solar calendar directly contradicted the lunar solar system adopted by Jerusalem's temple elite, while its angelology overlapped suspiciously with Persian and Babylonian myths. Early Christianity was fighting for legitimacy against pagan competitors, and texts blending foreign elements risked muddying the waters. The Watcher's story, for instance, bore uncomfortable similarities to Greek titans or Mesopotamian Apkallu, beings who brought civilizations gifts before being overthrown. Church leaders crafting a unified canon couldn't afford these parallels, so Enoch was sidelined as apocryphal, a label that conveniently masked its inconvenient truths. Yet the real irony, the very forces that suppressed Enoch ensured its longevity. By branding it dangerous, they cemented its allure for mystics and rebels throughout history. From medieval Kabbalists to modern conspiracy theorists, the book's forbidden status became its greatest power, a proof that some truths are too potent to disappear. The question isn't just why Enoch was buried, but why it keeps resurfacing, challenging every generation to confront the uncomfortable idea that history's victors might have hidden more than just inconvenient texts. They might have hidden the keys to understanding our own forgotten past. Freemasonry's fascination with Enoch runs deeper than myth. It's coded into their very architecture. Within lodge rituals, Enoch appears as the original master builder, a guardian of divine geometry who inscribed sacred knowledge onto golden plates and hid them beneath the earth. The legendary Enochian pillars, said to preserve antediluvian wisdom against catastrophe, mirror Masonic teachings about preserving truth across ages. These aren't mere allegories. Early Masonic texts explicitly link their craft to Enoch's celestial blueprint, framing his ascent as a metaphor for spiritual initiation. When Masons speak of the lost word, some whisper it's Enoch's name, the key to unlocking hidden realms. Their symbolic use of the all-seeing eye harkens back to Enoch's transformed vision after walking among angels, suggesting that true enlightenment requires seeing beyond mortal limits. Kabbalistic traditions take Enoch's legacy even further, weaving him into the fabric of cosmic mysticism. In the Zohar, Enoch becomes Metatron, the supreme angelic scribe whose body transforms into celestial fire. Here, his ascent isn't just a journey, it's an alchemical process where human flesh becomes a vessel for divine light. Kabbalists meditate on the Enochian keys, not as literal incantations but as vibrational codes to higher consciousness. The Sephirot, Kabbalah's tree of life, echoes Enoch's layered heavens, each sphere a stepping stone toward the infinite. Modern practitioners still debate whether Enoch's calendar encodes the 288 sparks of divine energy central to creation, a mathematical mystery buried in plain sight. Esoteric Christianity holds perhaps the most radical reinterpretation. Groups like the Rosicrucians and Martinists revere Enoch as a prototype of the perfected man, his bodily ascent prefiguring Christ's resurrection. Their secret manuscripts depict him receiving a solar body beyond corruption, a concept mirrored in Paul's letters about spiritual bodies. Some Gnostic strands go further, suggesting Enoch's teachings were deliberately excised from Scripture because they revealed shortcuts to divine union, knowledge that threatened ecclesiastical control. The Vatican's own archives allegedly contain encrypted references to an Enochian lineage of mystics who bypassed institutional sacraments to achieve direct revelation. This raises urgent questions for our era. If Enoch's teachings survived in fragments across secret societies, what else might be hiding in plain sight? In an age drowning in information yet starved of wisdom, his legacy challenges us to ask who controls knowledge today and why. Corporate algorithms, academic gatekeeping, and state surveillance form a modern counterpart to ancient religious censorship. Yet, just as Ethiopian monks preserved Enoch's words against all odds, today's digital archivists and independent researchers piece together forbidden histories. The real secret isn't just what Enoch knew, it's why his vision remains perpetually on the edge of rediscovery, always present yet just beyond reach. The Book of Enoch remains one of history's most stubborn puzzles, a text that refuses to be silenced, no matter how many times it's buried or dismissed. Even now, after centuries of suppression and rediscovery, its pages pulse with unanswered questions. Who were the Watchers really? Angels, extraterrestrials, or something else entirely? Why does its solar calendar align so precisely with celestial mechanics no ancient scribe should have understood? And most haunting of all, what other secrets might still lie hidden in the fragments we haven't found? This isn't just about an old manuscript, it's about the stories we're told versus the ones that survive in whispers. Every time a new artifact surfaces, like those Dead Sea Scroll fragments or an Ethiopian relic, another piece of the puzzle clicks into place, proving that history is far messier and far more fascinating than any single narrative allows. But here's the real takeaway. Enoch's story isn't confined to the past. Its themes: corrupt power, forbidden knowledge, the tension between revelation and control echo louder than ever in our world of hidden algorithms, genetic engineering, and disinformation wars. Maybe that's why it keeps resurfacing. It's not just a relic, it's a mirror. Whether you approach it as scripture, myth, or cosmic allegory, this text demands something rare today: curiosity without blind acceptance. So dive deeper, question the footnotes, cross-reference the timelines, because if there's one lesson Enoch teaches, it's that truth rarely stays in the shadows forever. Before we close, let's sit with one of Enoch's most cryptic lines, spoken as he stood between heaven and earth. The stars will change their courses, and the heavenly rulers will glow with fire when they see this Son of Man seated upon a throne of lightning. What did he mean? A prophecy, a warning, or something we're still too earthbound to grasp? Hit the comments, I'd love to hear your theories. And if this journey through Enoch's mysteries lit a spark, don't stop here. The rabbit hole goes deeper than we could ever cover in one video. Until next time, keep questioning.